What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to the $10,000 EIDL grant stimulus update. Breaking news. It is Hump Day, March the 3rd, 2021. Please do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up, hashtag EIDL with your comments below, and you might want to share this all over social media with hashtag EIDL. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not heard the news or seen my poll last night, it appears there might be, underline the word might, be a miracle in the making, because in the last 24 hours, JACKY, ROSEN, and CORNYN, two people I've told you to tag, harass, and reach out to relentlessly, have come through. And I'll read to you the following article. I'll pin it in the top comment, because guess what? In July of this past year on the 10th, the EIDL for Small Business Act, known as S4227, was entered into the Senate. And that bill, which sounds like I actually wrote it, if you've been here a year and listened to my bullshit for the last 12 months, you know exactly what I'm talking about. No additional documentation, no additional reapplication. You cannot be discriminated against regardless of credit score. If you don't want the loan, you still would have gotten the grant of $10,000 under S4227, and it didn't matter with respect to size. But this bill adds one more thing that you might find interesting. So pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, glass of wine. How about a whiskey? I could go for one of those. Give me an Angel's Envy rye on a big rock, a Blanton's, a Bullet, something. Because I got to tell you guys right now, this is some unbelievable stuff. If this gets through the House and or the Senate in the next week and a half, as we approach the March 15th deadline, every single one of you, regardless of where you live, are going to get a chance at $10,000 or the balance thereof. So allow me to read. Today, Senator JACKY, ROSEN, this was yesterday, a member of the Senate Committee for Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and Senator CORNYN, a Republican of Dallas, Texas. And as I've said, JACKY, ROSEN's a Democrat in middle-income Las Vegas. CORNYN's a Republican in middle-income Dallas, Texas. Both of them had been hearing some major heat from their constituents, including guys like me and a few friends of mine who are just off their rocker. But we're not going to accept anything less than $10,000, regardless of where you live. So her and CORNYN announced the reintroduction of the Insuring Increased Disaster Loans, EIDL for Small Business Act. It doesn't say S4227 here because it's actually a skinny down version. I don't know what the number's going to be, probably different. This bipartisan legislation would assist our nation's businesses impacted by the coronavirus pandemic by providing an additional $15 billion of EIDL advance grants. So let's get this straight. We have $20 billion in Section 331, the targeted EIDL advance. Almost a third of you have gotten an email. Another huge chunk of you will get an email from them within the next 4 or 5 weeks. So if you're in a low-income community, don't fret. There is no portal, and email's on the way. So that's $20 billion. You also have another $15 billion, as I've talked about all week, in the supplemental $5,000 targeted EIDL advance, which is, I believe, is for low income. So that's $35 billion for low, and some of you in middle income are getting that email, plus another 15. So if my math is correct, we have potentially $50 billion of EIDL grant money with various specifications on the line that could make it into this $1.9 trillion behemoth by the middle of the month. I continue. The bill would also remove the Small Business Administration's caps on EIDL loans below $2 million. In other words, it's been at $150 illegally because of Miss Javita Carranza for the last 12 months. Well, if this goes through, that goes away. It puts them back at $2 million where they belong. The threshold that was set by Congress, and it requires the SBA. Are you sitting down? Maybe you've got your wine, your beer. Somebody do something. There's got to be some alcohol flowing with respect to what I'm going to read right now. I wish I had some, but I don't. And it requires the SBA, and I quote, to provide the full $10,000 EIDL grant to all eligible small business, regardless of size or location. The word location was never in S4227 because we didn't need it. We didn't have anybody in Congress trying to pander to low-income community voters. So they've heard our screams, our hollers, our scratching and clawing over the last several weeks. And they've added in the word location. So in other words, if you're in low, middle, or high, and this goes through, the caps on the loans go to $2 million, which means reconsideration, if we even have to go through an official one, more on that later, will be a much easier process. And many of you that are entitled to up to $2 million in terms of a loan will have access to it because they have over $115 billion left over. And don't forget, the original formula is gross revenue minus the cost of goods and services divided by 2. It was supposed to be 6 months of working capital, but that's the formula. So if you plug in gross revenue minus your cost of goods and services divided by 2, and this goes through, and you're entitled, let's say, to up to $2 million, you would have access to that. Up until now, it's been capped at $150 grand. And as I've been saying for a while now, the former head of the SBA, some people say I talk too loud, it gives them a headache. Too fucking bad. The former head of the SBA, Miss Karen Mills, she was the head of the SBA under the Obama administration. She had a lot to do with getting Miss Javita Carranza added to head up the SBA under the Biden administration. There is a movement afoot. Again, it's pinned in the top comment. December 10th, Facebook Live with Big Ben Cardin, who once again, even though he's on the hot seat right now, he wants to wipe out the EIDL loan so you don't pay the SBA a dime with respect to the loan. But Karen Mills, who used to run the SBA, wants to get you 6 months of working capital without going through reconsideration. So try to imagine this. Everybody based on this bill, regardless of size or location, gets 10 grand or the balance thereof, whether you're in low, middle, or high. And you get access to a loan up to $2 million. And it may not require, when this is all said and done, traditional reconsideration, which can take 6 or 8 weeks. You might get an email, if the former head of the SBA has any say about it, that says, hey, we're able to get you another 6 months of working capital, which again is gross revenue minus cost of goods or services divided by 2. If that number equals what you already got or greater now that the caps are going back to $2 million, some of you are going to get a boatload of loan money over the course of the next 2 or 3 months. But again, this has to pass. I continue. Provides the full $10,000 EIDL advance to all eligible small businesses, regardless of size or location, as intended by the original CARES Act. In other words, I've been screaming now for months that 50 senators, congressmen, and women said their congressional intent was 10 grand, not 1,000 per employee. There were multiple letters from just about everybody on both sides of the aisle, but Ms. Carranza got away with breaking the law. Well, that's coming to an end, God Almighty, we pray, in the next 30 to 60 days. Their intention was to get you 10 grand and have the caps at $2 million, not the self-imposed $150,000. I'm going to read you a couple of quotes and then I'm going to summarize this. And again, it's pinned in the top comment. If I don't get at least 2,000 close to 3,000 comments on this video, you guys are not giving me what this old motherfucker deserves. This is exactly what you guys have wanted to hear. It has to pass. I get it. But 87% of you, based on the poll last night, think it's going to pass. Jackie Rosen goes on to say, and I quote, as the economic storm caused by COVID-19 continues to threaten our small business community, it is critical that we take further steps, thank you, Jackie, to support small businesses in Nevada and across the country. I wonder where that across the country is coming from. I don't know. Maybe from guys like me that have been pounding her and John Cornyn and Big Ben Cardin and Chris Coons and everybody else for the last 12 months, especially the last 2 weeks. She goes on to say, I'm proud to reintroduce S4227, although it's probably going to get a different number because it is skinny down and it does add location. This bipartisan bill that will provide additional funding for the EIDL advance grants, as well as eliminate the SBA's caps on EIDL loans and grants, no more than this $1,000 per employee, to make crucial funding available to all eligible small businesses. I will continue working to ensure that our nation's small businesses have the support they need to succeed during this challenging time. Jackie, we thank you. Everybody watching me right now should tag Jackie Rosen on Facebook and Twitter. Thank her, but say we need to get this through. If I don't get this $10,000 as a middle or high income community member, my business is going down in flames. We can't take our foot off the gas. but she does deserve a debt of gratitude. John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, probably one of the only Republicans, by the way, believe you me, that wants to give anybody any money. If you saw the Gang of 10 that was trying to eliminate the $1,400 check, I'm talking about the Susan Collins, the Rand Pauls of the world. They're absolutely pathetic. Look, at some point we're going to have a problem with the debt, but that's going to be 10 to 15 years from now. This money comes right back into the coffers. You give small business owners 10 grand and access to another loan up to $2 million, they're going to generate tax revenue. They're going to regenerate and reinvigorate the economy. Most of that money is going to come right back to the federal government. I go on to say from John Cornyn, a Republican in middle-income Dallas, Texas, as the coronavirus continues to wreak havoc on our economy, Texas small businesses are bearing a tremendous financial burden. Oh, really? The EIDL program has helped many small businesses keep their doors open. That is true during this pandemic, and this legislation would help make sure that they receive the full assistance they need to stay afloat and help get our economy on track. Let me close out for the next 2 minutes. Give me 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I earned it. Gosh darn it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets. You can read it yourself. It's pinned in the top comment. Bullet number 1, $15 billion in appropriations for the EIDL advance grants. Now, I can hear the questions now. If you're in low income, don't worry about it. You've already applied. You've got access to $15,000. This applies for the most part to everyone who either didn't get a low income community because the SBA screwed up, or you're in middle or high income and you're an eligible, legitimate small business. Bullet number 2, everyone's going to get taken care of one fucking way or another if I have anything to say with it. Say a little bit of that. This has been such a journey, I can't even tell you. Bullet number 2, prohibit the Small Business Administration from placing maximum caps below $2 million on EIDL loans, which have a maximum loan amount of $2 million. No shit. As established by the CARES Act. Currently, and I love it about this bill, they call out the SBA for violations of the law. Currently, the SBA's capped loans at $150,000 a business. Under this bill, all eligible small businesses shall receive, there's that word, shall receive, not may, could, up to, none of that bullshit, shall receive EIDL funding in the amount calculated using the current EIDL formula up to $2 million. What's the formula? Gross revenue minus cost of goods and services divided by 2. It's supposed to equal 6 months of working capital, payroll, rent, utilities, business credit cards, etc. Gross revenue minus your cost of goods and services divided by 2. It's supposed to equal 6 months of working capital. Don't forget, pin in the top comment, former head of the SBA, Karen Mills, wants you to get another 6 months. The good news here, if it passes, is we might not only be able to avoid reconsideration. In other words, no wait in 2 months during reconsideration. If this eventually goes through, they may send you an email and say, hey, would you like another loan equal to 6 months? And a lot of you that are larger, like a restaurant, if your gross revenue minus your cost of goods and services divided by 2 is greater than 150 grand, you might be able to get a loan equal to $2 million. This is an absolute home run for larger small businesses, let's say that are north of 10 employees. Bullet number 3, and there's only 2 more, so bear with me. This prohibits the SBA from placing limitations on the EIDL loan advance, aka the grant. Under this bill, all eligible small businesses shall receive, not may, not could, not up to, shall receive the full $10,000 grant provided by the CARES Act, regardless of size or location. Location was not in S4227. Jackie, John, I thank you. I'm calling on all the senators, including the Republicans, in both the Senate and the House. For the love of God Almighty, please know that this money is going to come back to the federal government. If you guys and gals don't step up to the plate to help our disabled and retired veterans, God bless each and every one, our single dads and mom who may have 3 or 4 kids in the other room and they're struggling just to put food on the table. If you don't come through in this final hour before this $1.9 trillion package gets passed in the next week or 2, it's on you. And don't be surprised if we vote your ass out, because we need this money regardless of size or location. Bullet number 4 requires the EIDL advance grants to be dispersed within 15 days. That's pretty quick. That's much quicker than the supplemental, $5,000 one that's also in from the House. That can take upwards of 42 days to pay. This requires those in Section 332, the $15 billion, to get 10 grand or the balance thereof within 15 days of the law passing. Good luck, but hey, I'll take it. In the final bullet, it requires the SBA to submit a monthly report to the House Committee for Small Business, blah, blah, blah. They want to know all the obligations, the loan amounts, the allocations, etc. But the one I like, and again, it's pinned in the top comment, the final part of the 5th bullet, it asks for an estimate of when the available appropriations will be exhausted. In other words, the federal government wants to know when the SBA is getting low on the $15 billion, because don't forget, both Section 331, the Targeted EIDL Advance, and Section 332, the Emergency EIDL Grant, they run through December the 31st, 2021. So I have no doubt about it. If 15 billion is a tiny bit light, but keep in mind, it's 20 plus 15, there's 35 billion in Section 331 for low income. Plus 15 is $50 billion. That's right on the threshold, as far as I'm concerned, of the 9 million that applied, 5.7 million that got a grant. Whether you're waiting on a full 10 grand because you applied after July 15th and before December the 27th, or you're waiting on the balance thereof, ladies and gentlemen, in black and white is a potential dream come true. Don't take your foot off the gas. Reach out to all of your senators, congressmen, and women. Reference this bill that's pinned in the top comment. And don't forget, Jackie Rosen and John Cornyn are heroes. They heard our screaming and hollering, believe me, off the charts screaming and hollering. If this gets passed, every single one of you, God bless each and every one, will get 10 grand regardless of size or location. So until next time, from an exhausted and ecstatic Atlanta, Georgia, always remember, I love each and every one of you, and thanks so much for watching.